working on those. Next, we have a presentation from the Ward and Boundary 2024 final report and recommendation to City Council. The Ward and Boundary Chair, John Trumbull, is going to be making the presentation, and we look forward to seeing your work.
Should probably pull these out.
She just said it should be.
Yeah. I have some statements prepared. I will try to read these both not too quickly, but also not too slowly. Good evening. My name is John Trumbull, and I was chosen by my colleagues on the Ward and Boundary Commission to serve as chair this session, which is my third term on the commission. I'd like to start again by thanking all commission members for their efforts this year and their commitment to this process that is not an easy process. We had a lot of changes to make this year because of a major cleanup of the voter rolls by the Secretary of State and the county clerk. Over 5,500 inactive voters were removed from the totals that we were working with 2 years ago. We are charged with objectively evaluating fair and balanced ward boundaries for our city every 2 years by charter, and when those changes are significant, it makes it especially difficult. Each member of this commission has volunteered their personal time, meeting several times a month, as well as in between, reading reports, studying maps provided to us by the city's GIS department, for which we are very appreciative. I'd like to briefly recap what we've done this year and how we arrived at our recommendation. We first met on March 20th of this year to evaluate how variations in voter and population estimates affected ward composition and whether we were prepared to make adjustments this year. This year's ideal voter count is 1,916 per ward. The voter roll changes saw voter counts down to as few as 1,317, which was fourth ward, had a net loss of over 1,200 voters just in that ward alone. And as many as 2,415 in 6th ward, which represents a swing of minus 31% and positive 26% from the ideal numbers respectively. And population counts were also greatly affected and varied significantly from ideal, albeit in different wards. And this discrepancy demonstrates a challenge that for those of you who were with us in 2022 and 2020 are familiar with, which is that it's not possible with the current distribution to balance both population and voters as it's worded in the charter. And so in the last 2 cycles, the commission has opted to give preference to balancing voter counts, and we made that same decision early this year. The reason for this considers several factors. First, this is how it was written prior to 2017, and we've never been successfully able to balance both since the wording has been changed. And additionally, since we perform this analysis every 2 years, which is far more frequently than the decennial censuses, I hope that's the right word for that, censi, voter counts are more up-to-date and therefore more reliable as a metric. Recently, the Ward and Boundary Commission received a requested clarification from City Council reinforcing our decision to give preference to voter counts, which is a clarification that we also requested in 2022. For the purposes of continuity for residents, we do make every attempt to keep neighborhoods contiguous within any particular ward, and we operate within a margin of plus or minus 10% for each ward to keep the boundaries logical by neighborhood or physical separator. Again, where possible and appropriate. It's not always the case. Another factor to consider is how to work within this margin. If we adjust wards just enough to be inside of that margin, we affect the fewest residents. However, if we get the numbers as balanced as possible, or close to 0% deviation, the hope is that for the next cycle, we don't have to recommend adjustments, which was the case in 2022. So considering the magnitude of adjustments that we saw we were already going to have to make this year, we strive to get as close to even as possible, and keep in mind that even with a plus or minus 10%, Those margins are really thin with the ideal voter count of 1,916. So in some areas, 10% or 191 voters can be a single street or a block. In June of this year, each member of the commission was given access to sandbox environments to test out modifications and understand the data better. Prior to meeting on June 26th, we were provided 8 computer-generated outputs from the ArcGIS tool. Following several meetings of discussion and fine adjustments in various spots, one of these was carried forward as the body's preferred map at our July 31st meeting. We then, during the month of August, collected input from the public, made more adjustments on September 4th, and those adjustments were carried forward on September 10th, and what is being recommended to council today, which is represented here. I hope you all have taken some time to read through Marvin's very detailed story map, which drills down further into all of the processes I just outlined. And I've also had a chance to study the final proposed map. To summarize the changes, we had 3 wards that were significantly short of the ideal registered voter count of 1,916. Wards 2, 3, and 4 were those wards. Meanwhile, 1, 6, and 7 were well above, and Ward 5 was the closest, but pretty much right on that 10% mark. The problem we face is that the 2 wards furthest short of ideal, 3 and 4 here, are right up against one another, and we did have a few hundred voters to work with in Ward 7, some of which went to 4, some of which went to 3. Both were still short, so Ward 4 had to shift somewhere to the south or east. Looking at the data, we chose to incorporate all of Sunnyside rather than chop up Wiles Hill and Highland Park, which is what, if you actually look at all of the computer models, they all recommended approximately the same kind of distribution, and we also wanted to take the neighborhoods into account. And then 3rd Ward also had to shift south and east, and would now incorporate portions of the entirety of the WVU farm and areas north of Willie Street, which were previously part of Ward 5, and also into downtown, which was previously Ward 2. Ward 2, also being low of ideal, shifted south as well, incorporating effectively all of South Park between Dorsey Avenue and Buchanan, which were previously parts of Wards 1 and 6, which were high, so they could give up some voters. So that's kind of a summary of the changes. This process is one that the Ward and Boundary Commission has been appointed to evaluate every 2 years objectively for the purpose of recommending balanced ward boundaries based on the data we're provided. And this is a responsibility that we do not take lightly. The severity of the adjustments we had to consider this year made our task difficult, and we had many tough but thorough deliberations throughout. Ultimately, I believe strongly that we, as a body, came together to move forward through the process and did so unanimously with each vote. We are confident that we are presenting the best candidate for an objectively balanced map that serves the purpose given to us in the city charter, which we have all taken an oath to uphold. Looking back as far as I have records, the Ward and Boundary Commission in 2016 and 2018 made no recommendations due to having incorrect or incomplete data or insufficient tools for evaluating the data that they did have. That changed in 2020 with the introduction of Marvin Davis as the GIS manager and the availability of GIS tools. We were, for the first time in years, able to readjust boundaries and do so efficiently and effectively. That process has improved even since then, and I can tell you now that this is truly a data-driven analysis. The map that we have submitted is probably 95 to 98% computer-generated. Having GIS-generated options as a starting point allows us to focus on making fine adjustments and enables us to complete recommendations in a timely manner. The tools also allowed us to collect public input, which we can incorporate into our final map, which we did. With that, I would also like to thank city staff for their assistance and dedication during this process. The clerks, Christine and Heather, have taken minutes, organized meeting materials, published recordings and broadcast and coordinated meeting spaces for us. Marvin and Veronica have spent the last 6 months providing us with GIS maps, analyses, and statistics to help us make the best decisions that we can. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have for the commission.
Which run is this one? Because I'm looking at the report on the GIS report, and it has 7 different.
Yeah, this I believe is based on run 3. It's the tool run 3 with, what did he call it? The
Tool-assisted run-through?
tool-assisted run-through.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, I'm not going to be a part of this council if this is the map we go with. So was there any other maps that could keep me?
We worked with the data as much as we could, and like I said, we had to look at the data that we were given. This is like putting together a puzzle that doesn't have a picture on the front of the box. We have to move things around, see what fits best. And there was some variation, but a lot of the conclusions looked the same. We had a lot of discussion about it. And I don't think that again, we talked about possibilities in Wiles Hill, and the fact is that it chopped up those streets. It didn't make any sense. And objectively, this map that incorporates all of Sunnyside down to Campus Drive as a whole made more sense from a data perspective. It got us closer to those numbers, and we were able to keep these areas a lot more contiguous than any of our other options that we had in front of us.
So the idea is to get population, right? To get voters.
Voters, yeah.
But it looks like what I'm looking at, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm getting an animal farm, an organic farm, a law school, a football stadium.
Yeah,
that has no population.
There are some registered voters in those areas. It's not a ton, and that's one of the things is that there was a little bit of twisting here. You can see Fourth Ward used to kind of go over here. You're right. There's not a lot of voters over there, but it does put Third Ward up against Seventh Ward, which gives a little bit more flexibility. I think that the Seventh Ward boundary there made a little bit more sense. And honestly, this area here, there's not a lot of voters here, but this area north of Willie Street does have a lot of voters. And frankly, it just kind of comes with the territory.
Say that last bit.
So this area here that's like north of Willie Street and off of College Avenue does have a decent chunk of voters. And really the farm just kind of comes with that territory.
To make it contiguous.
It has to be contiguous.
Yeah,
And if
to make it
Fifth Ward,
contiguous.
right now I have a couple of the streets on the other side of Willie Street in my ward, but the voters there needed to move to Third Ward, so then the farm isn't contiguous to my ward anymore. So the farm has to move to with those voters north of Willie.
So what are my options? Do I resign? What do I do? What happens? What are my options, Ryan, if this is the map they choose?
Councilor, this is the presentation of the Ward Boundary Commission report. This is set forth in section 7.05 of the charter. So once the report is filed with the city clerk, then it's put on the next regular city council meeting agenda for action. The council can either approve or disapprove or set it for future consideration. It has to take some action by the first meeting in December.
Okay, I understand. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm kind of sad about it because I really like my ward. I've worked really hard up there to do some things and getting our neighborhood back. You know, getting rid of vacant houses and fixing the roads and the sidewalks and alleyways that have been ignored for so many years. But it is what it is, I guess. So,
Well, does that affect her term midstream, or would it happen with the next election?
Based on the 2020 amendment to that section of the charter, any member of council whose ward boundary would be affected by a change midterm would still be permitted to stay in office for the remainder of their term, but any future election, they would have to run in the ward of their residence at that time.
so where am I now? What ward?
Third.
I'm in Jennings ward.
No, oh, you're talking about where you would go.
Oh, where would I? Where's my ward now? 4th?
You're talking about which proposed ward?
Yeah, where does that move me?
If I'm understanding, you live in the Seneca,
Mhm.
yeah, like previously Seneca was right on this border, and it would encompass Fourth Ward through this area.
Okay.
How many residents are there in that?
I don't have
Would
the data for
Seneca
that.
Is that considered a neighborhood? Seneca Center? Like, did you all, because, I'm sorry, and tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You all tried to keep a lot of the neighborhoods together, whether they were moved in wards together or not, right? So with
Yeah.
Seneca Center, that would count theoretically as a neighborhood?
I'm not sure what it would be considered. So from my non-expert perspective, that whole area would be considered a part of Sunnyside.
Mm. Okay, so you choose that as a Sunnyside neighborhood.
I'm sure somebody might argue with me about that, but.
But you had to pick up voters south of there, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the map, so by color, purple, Fourth Ward was the lowest. It was down to 1,300 voters. It was about 600 voters short of the ideal. And so.
Which one was short?
Fourth, your ward.
Okay.
Fourth Ward was
The
about
ward I represent.
Correct.
It ain't mine.
Fourth Ward was about 600 voters short. Third Ward was almost as short. I don't recall the exact number off the top of my head. And Second Ward was short as well. And like I said, first and sixth were kind of high. So they had voters that they could give up. Seventh had, I think, about 300 voters. And so if you look at the way that it shifted, fourth shifted up here a little bit and down this way, and third, but the idea is that these three wards, purple, green, and blue, all had to shift south in order to get down to where there were excess voters. Because the fact is that it's not about just being short. These wards that were high we had to move voters out of those wards somewhere in order to balance them as well. And Fifth Ward was about 10% high, which is why we chose to move. If you look, it's hard to see on the map because it's the same color, but Willie Street kind of leaves down this way. And so this chunk of voters was a logical area to kind of include in Third Ward. We had previously separated out this Falling Run area as a physical boundary so that there wasn't like one or two streets on the other side. There's the modifications we made in 2020. But if we were coming all the way over and could include all of those areas contiguously in Third Ward, I frankly think that it would make more sense for the folks who live there than just a couple of streets. And so that was kind of an ideal move. So those could go to Third Ward and give them some voters. And like I said, Second was able to come down and pick up the excess voters in first and sixth by coming all the way down here, which you'll see. Sorry, I put them back in here, but you can see Second shifted down and gave Third Ward the ability to shift down, which gave Fourth Ward the ability to shift down, and everything kind of locked into place. And frankly, I don't, we worked with sandboxes, which were great. We were kind of able to go in and make, select one box and change its proposed ward. And there were we got a good understanding of the data, but we looked at every commission member had the ability to kind of go through, play with the data. We talked about some of those maps, but ultimately we found that there were two computer run outputs, 3 and 6. And 6 needed some work, and I had done some work on playing with 6 as well, but we felt that we looked at 3 and said, really, this gets us really close to the ideal numbers that we're looking at. And there's not a lot of cleanup that we have to do to say, you know, this neighborhood or this physical boundary is in the wrong spot and we need to move it over. And so that kind of became our foundation. And so that's why I wanted to mention the importance of these GIS tools, because really kind of previously there was not a guided process. It was a lot of trial and error, and I believe that that's part of the reason why in 2016, 2018, not a lot of movement occurred. There wasn't a good tool to use to get updated data, and so really, technology has allowed us to fast forward and allowed the commission to focus on making finer adjustments rather than drawing them all from hand or coming up with them off the top of our heads. We're using a tool to analyze the data, put it into buckets, and select something that, from a human standpoint, as somebody who lives here, every ward is supposed to have a representative. We were too short this year, 4 and 7 were not represented. But to kind of be a voice and say, well, I'm from here and I think that this boundary should look more like this, or I think that this boundary should look more like that. And it allows us to iterate on that rather than sitting down with a blank canvas and trying to draw and then recalculate and draw and recalculate, as it has been done before. So. And I know that these are big changes. And like I mentioned, I cannot understate how difficult it's not easy to go through and make. I understand this affects people. We don't take this lightly, but it is something that we've been appointed to do, and we tried to go in and let the data drive this process as much as possible. And like I said, realistically, 5,500 inactive voters were removed from the voter rolls, and it greatly affected the composition of the wards as they are currently.
I've run for office. I know some stuff about voter numbers. Is that 20 or 30% or something like that of
We went
what we
from
had?
18,900 some odd to 13,400 some odd.
We know a census happens every 10 years, but it's not very often that they affect voter numbers by that much.
No, and these are voters that the voters who are removed from the rolls. It's not an arbitrary process. These are voters that were identified because they had not participated in 2 general elections, which is a pretty significant amount of time. So, generally speaking, they're people who have moved away and probably registered to vote somewhere else. It was just never updated. Or students who registered here and don't go to school here anymore, which would kind of explain why most of the changes were in 3, 4, and 2.
So if we wanted to see some of the other iterations of what you all looked at, is it possible to see those?
There's a link in the packet.
I'm terrible at,
They have,
I'm better at a big old map.
they have
than-
7 runs on there, Jenny.
I'm sure Marvin would be happy to print some out for you.
So how many other versions were there?
We had 8 computer-generated versions.
And how many kept me in?
None. Some of them were a little choppy. We didn't like them as much. And we probably threw 3 iterations. I think Marvin, I didn't personally keep count. I think Marvin said at our last meeting, we probably had 20-something odd different maps that, we might have started with one, made some changes. Some of them there aren't largely different, but like I said, we started in June with some computer-generated options and some sandboxes to kind of play around in, and went from there. We probably met every week or two throughout the summer to talk about this, to talk about we'd make changes, have Marvin rerun the numbers, see where we were at. We would make more changes. We spent the month of August collecting public input. And the reality is that by charter, we also have to have this process done by September 30th. So we tried to stay on track, and yeah.
Appreciate it. Is there
Sure.
anybody else that had a question?
The map that,
Yeah.
I don't know who sent it out, but when you go from left to right, you can see where it is, what it's become. And
Yeah.
well, I mean, I know Marvin generated. I don't know where I got it from, but it's extremely helpful to get a quick visual to be able to go back and forth. Very, very nicely done.
That's all Marvin. He and Veronica worked together, like I said, throughout this entire process and provided us all of these tools to, be able to slide back and forth. And when you're trying to look at where a boundary is, where it used to be, it's, I don't know how we would do this process without it.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of hand drawing at one point.
Right, and I hope we're
Fairly recently, a lot of hand drawing at one point.
I hope very much. I can only imagine that we're producing better results than when they were hand drawn. But anyway,
I'm sure this was not easy, as you explained, and a lot of work. Thank you.
no problem.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The city attorney, just to clarify, like Councilor Michael's case, she would finish the term in 2027, and then she would have to run in a different ward. Is that correct?
If council chooses to change the ward boundaries in a way that would make any current member of the council no longer a resident of that council's ward, that council member can continue to serve the remainder of their term. So a change in ward boundaries now would not affect any member's eligibility to remain on council, but any future efforts to seek a council seat would be dictated by the ward of their residence at that time.
So basically, there's a 2-year gap, though, between 3rd and 4th ward. So even if I weren't allowed to run in 2027, I'd have to wait till 2029 to run. Correct?
I think that's right.
Or you run next year?
I'm not going to do that. I'd have to resign. I wouldn't run. I'm not going to go up against one of my fellow
Don't do it.
council members. One of them.
All right. Thank you.
I'll move these out of the way now.
Take your maps with you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have a presentation on the Morgantown Mile POTA. Grace Hutchins and our own counselor, Danielle Trumbull.
That's me. I think I'm up first. I didn't know that I had to give this presentation until the agenda came out, but I'm good at it.
Well, that's up
Well,
That's up to you all.
We've got a thing. You're better at it than me. They asked us to give a little bit of a recap of POTA, how we got here, and how things are going right now as we look at a couple of necessary changes to our establishing ordinance. So Attorney Simonton and I worked with Delegate John Williams for a few years in the legislature to get what we were calling a designated outdoor refreshment area approved By the time it made it through the West Virginia legislature, it's now a private outdoor designated area. That was approved by the legislature in the 2023 session. At that time, there were some things in that legislation that we and some of the Morgantown businesses were a little uncomfortable with. So as you all know, some of those changes were proposed and eventually passed in this past legislative session. So Morgantown kicked off our POTA on May 15th of this year. We dubbed that the Morgantown Mile. I brought a cup because we had a very lovely logo designed by local artist Brian Pickens. Our POTA district generally runs from Willie Street down to Foundry Street, Chestnut to Spruce, and then it crosses over to the rail trail and goes down to the event center from around the brew pub down to the Marriott Event Center. The hours that we approved earlier this spring are Monday through Friday, 4 to 10 p.m., Saturday, Sunday, 10 to 10. And we allowed the city manager the ability to change, to expand or limit those hours as needed, which we chose to do for the Great Race event earlier this summer. And I think that that went well. We as council appointed a committee to evaluate the POTA applications from local businesses. That committee consists of me, Assistant City Manager Emily Mazzarelli is the city's appointee, Steve Bennett, who is the Main Street Morgantown appointee. We have Grace Hutchins and Stephen Wilson, who are alcohol-related downtown business owners, and we have Shannon Dowling and Stephanie Swaim, who are non-alcohol-related downtown business owners. That committee has, they elected me or appointed me or forced me to be chair. Depends on how you look at it, I guess. But we have met 5 times since April so far. We have approved 13 businesses and 11 have completed their application fully through the state. Those would be 123 Pleasant Street, 48 Donnelly, Almost Heaven, Apothecary Ale House, Chestnut Beer Hall, El Polion, Gibby's Pub and Eatery, Iron Horse, Levels Arcade, Poor Choices, and the Brew Pub. Each of these establishments is given a sandwich board that has a POTA infographic on one side, some of the rules and regulations, a link to our POTA website, and the back side is blank for them to use how they would wish to put specials or anything on. We started each of these businesses out with 500 to 1,000 cups. 2 of them that requested 1,000 cups when they were initially approved in May have requested a second round of cups. I believe those were Apothecary and Chestnut Beer Hall. They have done very well, especially during, I know Chestnut told me that the summer concert series was very popular for him. Businesses in the downtown or in the POTA footprint also have the ability to designate whether they will welcome a POTA beverage into their business or not. The president of Main Street Morgantown, Mark Downs, and I actually went door to door to every business that we went out 2 or 3 times. Every business that was open, we visited, answered questions, handed out stickers, kind of gave them a little information on what was coming. I think we have kicked off. We had a very good start, and I was a little cautious when the students were coming back, how that would go. But I've talked to city staff, I've talked to MPD, I know Assistant Manager Mazzarelli has been staying on top of this. There have been no major issues reported. It's still relatively new, so we don't really have a whole lot of data from the businesses, but I do think that that is something we would like to gather. The whole purpose of this program was for economic development, to encourage folks to go through downtown and visit a larger variety of businesses. So I think we would like to put out a survey or something like that in the future. The Morgantown Potos received a lot of positive press. I know that Main Street Morgantown has done spots on it, Visit Mountaineer Country, the Morgantown Area Partnership. We were featured recently in Morgantown Magazine. Even the West Virginia Municipal League did a POTA workshop at our summer conference in August. We've been asked to get some rack cards that could be put at local attractions or even some of the downtown businesses that have some more information on them to help spread information about the rules and what the Morgantown Mile is. We have had some suggestions like being able to reuse cups, which are in our rules and regulations that they're single-use cups, but we haven't really seen any reason that would need to continue. We would like to be able to give people the option of a reusable cup. And then we also had some questions about fair and festival permits and our special event location footprints. So we invited Grace Hutchins here to also speak. Again, she is on the POTA review committee with us, and she owns a downtown business that currently participates in POTA, and she also puts on many of the fairs and festivals in downtown Morgantown.
So I check all 3 boxes.
You check all of my boxes.
So yeah, I get to experience POTA from all levels. You pretty much covered a lot of the points there. The biggest thing that I can see that POTA really needs to do is a branding initiative. We, not from a business side, but from a consumer side, that people don't know what POTA is, that it's available, how to access it. I mean, you can read the sandwich board, but that's a lot of words, and people don't read. So they do better with the nice branding, some good imagery, some marketing. So that's something that I really think could help move this program forward, is having a consistent poster maybe that we put in all POTA dispensing establishments, get your POTA here, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that I really think can be improved on, as well as a nice, easily consumable map, almost like an artistic map of showing what the district is and not a Google Maps version, just to really show people where they can wander, where they can go, and how they can experience this district and the Morgantown Mile. Because then when you have that branding, you can really market it as, have you walked the Morgantown Mile? Have you, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever that may be. Whoever is tasked with that, it's something I think that could really help move this program forward. Overall, it's a good experience from the bar side of it. Our biggest, most popular day was probably either the Friday before the Penn State game. Downtown was buzzing. Anytime there's an evening market at the farmers market, whenever the concerts were down at the waterfront. So like when we see these events that are outside and in walking distance, we definitely see the POTA more in use. Every now and then I'll see some, young parents walking or over 21, but walking around with a beverage, taking a stroll with their kid or something, So it's just a real nice casual experience. The first weekend I saw some trash from the POTA cups, but not really that much. I mean, it's also credit to the crews you have out there picking up trash that I see when I go to work at 4 in the morning. I think it's a really good addition to town. And I think it makes it unique for people to come visit the downtown, and it's just something different to experience that you don't get to experience everywhere else. Trying to think where I was going from there. Oh yeah, I do like the idea of exploring reusable cups. There are a lot of logistical questions that I would have of what type, how much, just kind of the whole implementation of it. I like it for the idea of just creating less waste. I'm not a huge fan of plastic personally, and I think it's a better image to offer.
They are earth cups, so they're supposed to be compostable, but
in what
After a few
facility?
generations.
Yeah, it's great to say, but I understand that
We tried.
It's no complaints. Next steps, So it's a good place to start, but just kind of exploring how to go. There's some ideas I personally have of, like kind of a deposit system with the business. Because, right now the business buys the cups and then either gives them away like we do. Some places will charge 50 cents, $1 or something like that to get it in the POTA cup to go, which is fine because it covers the costs. But then you come to the question of what type of potential reusable cup will we get? How much would it be? Would the business have to buy it? Would the consumer, so then it just comes into this cost, and when you start buying merchandise like that, that's a lot of funds tied up either at the city or the business level, et cetera, et cetera. But it's really an idea that I think we should explore to some degree, because I think it's just another nice marketable piece of something saying, look, here's our reusable cup, we're not creating more trash come explore our downtown. So it's just kind of a good image and messaging. You know, we talked about the branding, the advertising. I think once we get a better branding image on it too, we can convince more businesses to participate as a POTA selling establishment. Right now, I think you said, is there one on the waterfront?
Right now, I think
48, I mean, it's two, but yeah.
the rooftop
yeah.
and 48.
I mean, that place should be chock full of businesses that want to participate in this, because this, I mean, it's perfect, you know, strolling on the rail trail. My husband and I took one down to the waterfront the first, it was beautiful, you know. So I think that would help attract more people. It's not the most streamlined process, but that's getting an alcohol license, period. So it's as best as we can make it right now. So there's really not much room there, but just the branding and advertising I think would be a good next step. I think that's everything kind of from the bar point of view. Committee point of view, it's great, doing a great job. That's nice and easy, no improvements there. But from the festival side, I know this is the big question. Because it's so brand new. We've had, at least I know of on High Street, just the birthday party, I believe, had to deal with it. I know the waterfront has its own events too. And so then the proposed changes in that, what was it? Number one was the special event location and designating of 2 areas. And so the ABC, correct me if I'm wrong, either you or you know, obviously you're well versed in this, are asking us to designate these special event locations so then when that fairs and festival applications are applied for, like we have for Hops on the Mon and the waterfront and everything, we don't have to go through and get our own POTA license and sell POTA cups and the ABC doesn't like overlapping licenses. It's a thing that's been fun to explore. So I know the proposed boundaries, at least the one on High Street, I would like to suggest an adjustment to the border there. So if you want to explain special event locations any better, please do.
I think you nailed it.
Okay. So the one downtown, you know, we have High Street, and I'm thinking from at least, you know, my festival that I do, and then there's the West Street birthday party. The footprint that we encompass there is High Street, but it goes from Walnut to Moreland, I believe is the street. It's the alley right by Hotel Morgan. I think that's Moreland. Whereas right now the proposed area just goes to Pleasant Street. So encompassing that extra block will allow bigger events to happen there without shrinking the event or forcing the event to go to POTA. Yeah.
Grace likes to sell novelty glasses with her events.
Yes, I do. Yeah, that's.
I
that's
love
part of it
novelty
too.
glasses.
Yeah, they're cute little stainless steel cups. So if the time comes for refillable cups, I'm very experienced in it. But so I mean that's also a benefit too. Is there's this refillable, marketable cup that you can have with your event that is branded. You can sell advertising. You know, it's another nice piece of revenue. But for that proposed boundary, from Walnut to Moreland, including Chancery, so that the Courthouse Square can be in that as well. Now, I know Courthouse Square you can't dispense alcohol on, as per the county commission, or the county, but it is a very useful part of that footprint as well. So that's really the only suggestion I would do on those special event locations.
And we're looking just at the street, not sidewalks on that, because we do have POTA licensed
Yes.
establishments in those blocks.
The only hang up there, and I understand why, will the ABC require a demarcation between the sidewalk and the street? Whether it's a rope or whatever, that will significantly shrink your footprint there to just the street. I mean, I understand, which is why technically people can walk into those businesses during the event as it is now. So that's my only question with that. It's just something to explore and look at, not a critique or anything. But what will the ABC require us to do when that is there? I can only imagine. But we'll do whatever it takes. So yeah, whatever makes sense to satisfy everything, just so these special event licenses don't come in and negate POTA, because the last thing you want to do is negate POTA while trying to have a special event. They're counterintuitive. So as far as I can tell, the waterfront, I mean, I know Vincent could probably speak better to it. That boundary looks probably fine, but you know, that's not my realm. So, and then I saw something in the proposed where whenever there is this special event location, there was proposed signage for suspension signs, like POTA suspended here. Who does that? The city or the festival
That's responsibility of the city.
The city? Okay. Okay. That was just a question I had there, because it was kind of vague a little bit, just says they'll be placed, so. I didn't know.
Okay, yeah, and that's within the authorities of the city manager. We can certainly clear that up. And for council's reference, I had an opportunity to talk to Grace about that, about the changes to the special event location on High Street today, and communicated those to staff. So we're trying to work on those as well to get it in place for first reading, and also reach out to ABCA about the boundary demarcation issue, and probably catch up with you about that as well.
I bet, yeah, I have, whatever, yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I think that's kind of been our experience with POTUP so far. I mean, like I said, it's been all positive. I love that it's here. I will partake in it every now and then, especially the Great Race. That was a wonderful time to go and enjoy a beverage and look at some amazing cars. So, yeah, I don't think it was as terrifying as people thought it was going to be. And people have, as far as I can tell, have responded very well to it. And it's just been a nice little cherry on top of downtown.
Trying something new. It's
I
kind
know,
of scary.
it's very scary.
Can we?
Yeah, yeah, so if you, did I forget anything?
I think that covered all of the presentation. I think there's a couple of extra things Ryan and I will have to bring up when we get to our discussion, but we're happy to answer. Oh, I'm happy. I assume I brought Grace along. She's happy to answer any questions.
I don't do this. This is not my thing. But yes, anybody?
You want me to do what? In front of who?
I used to teach Spanish. I bartend, but this terrifies me. So
Just break into Spanish and confuse us.
I know, right?
Or confuse those of us who are not good at Spanish. Does anyone has any kind of questions? I think I've asked a little bit before, but I'm just curious. With the POTA, do we do anything special for those who don't drink or those who don't feel like drinking that particular day, or those who are designated drivers? Is there any specialty cocktails that are non-alcoholic, or any kind of nod toward that community? Because I think in Morgantown we have a significant community of people who are in recovery, and also just people who habitually don't drink.
I mean, the NA market is a very growing market right now. I mean, there are very large breweries that are making NA beers. We carry a bunch at the apothecary. I mean, with the beer, so I mean, that could be in the POTA as well, just for optics' sake. Well, that is purchased. It is technically a controlled substance. So yeah, it goes into that. Now, mocktail wouldn't be, because it's just juices.
Depends on
and
what's in it.
Yeah. So I mean,
You can go to Gibby's and they have non-alcoholic spirits.
Now they would probably put it just for optics into that, because when you take it out, it does look like an alcoholic beverage. And so, I mean, I think
Yeah, people wouldn't know whether it was or wasn't.
No, but I mean,
To
then
know if you
it
should be
goes into
carrying it or
if you
not.
make someone an NA drink and you put it in that and they're not 21, then obviously you wouldn't do that, because then it looks like they're drinking alcohol when they're not.
There are issues.
Yeah.
On opening day, we had 4 licensed establishments, and I clearly could not have an alcoholic beverage at each one, so I got like a non-alcoholic POTA here and a non-alcoholic POTA there, in a POTA cup.
In a POTA cup.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses that, bars and stuff that are POTA participants don't allow outside POTAs in, just for the fact of controlling their own alcohol on premise. Like, I can't have liquor on my premise, so I don't let outside POTAs in, since POTA can have liquor.
You can card that person.
What, when they come in with that?
Well, yeah, well,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
just mean
No,
like, if they
yeah.
ordered a drink at your bar, you didn't card them.
I only trust my bartenders. I mean, everybody else is wonderful, but I only know my bartenders. So yeah, I mean, technically NA beers would have to be in a POTA cup too, but I would tell my employees to do it for optics a lot, even if it is a 0.0, beer, because a lot of NA beers are still 0.5. So technically there's alcohol in it. They are sold under an alcohol license.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, NA beers are always this kind of gray area. It's like, okay, there's 0.0 alcohol in it, and it's just like, I'm still going to card for it, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I get carded when I buy it at the grocery store.
Yeah. I mean, I think because it's still rung up and it's sold under an alcohol license to an alcohol license, and it's still a controlled substance. But the NA market is a very much growing market. So yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
In terms of reusable cups, maybe, so I'd always assumed, probably wrongly, that there'd be some kind of like health code concerns with reusable cups. Could you talk about that,
Yeah.
Mike? What?
I don't have the direct answer for it, obviously, for the health department. Something that here's an experience I had when my husband and I went to Belgium, and we went to the Christmas markets there. Wonderful time, if you ever get to go. So they sell, obviously, alcoholic beverages, and what they sell is this little reusable cup, plastic, and it's got the logo on it and everything, but you could turn it back in for a deposit when you were done with it, and you can turn it back into the booth and whatever. So what I'm assuming is that people would take these reusable cups, maybe someone wanted to reuse it, and you just swapped it for a new one, and you wash that reusable cup, depending on what the material is, obviously, if it's somewhat, then you could just rewash it like you would a normal glass, and then you would just have a clean, that would be my practice, and that would be what I would encourage people. But I do mention that deposit because it is something interesting that might be attractive to consumers as well. Is here's this lovely cup, you can buy it for this, but if you don't want it one day, or I don't know how to navigate that, but it's just interesting.
This was a conversation my husband and I had earlier too, and I mean, not everything is a draft beer, right? Sometimes you're pouring wine, sometimes you pour a can into it. So those kinds of things, it wouldn't really matter. And it's about having the option, not that you have to use a reusable cup, but some places would like the option. Yeah,
if we went that route, I would explore pre-ordering. Excuse me. Because I could see some bars not wanting to fork over the money to have those, on hand. I know at the very beginning there was some bulk at the cost of just a case of plastic cups, and so if we go that route, really explore who would be willing, who would want it. Maybe it's something with Earth Day, I don't know, that you do a pre-sale with customers. I don't know, just there's ways to do it, but the optics of it and the option is really cool.
For the record, our cups are sold in either half a case or a full case, and they are 500 or 1,000 at a time, and they're 20 cents each. So some places charge 50 cents for a cup, some places I've paid $1. And some places like Apothecary and 123 are free with purchase of beverage. So I kind of that up to the business.
I kind of like it as the option. That's kind of why we don't charge, is I like it to present, say you're with a group of friends, you still have half a beer within POTA hours. You don't have to chug your beer, you can just dump it in a cup and go with them. So it kind of like slows down, you don't have to catch up and run away, You can either buy a full one or put it in a POTA to go. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Good. Very good. All right. There you go. Thank you guys.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Presentation, item D is presentation of summer activities for arts, culture, and history. Vincent Kitch, Cultural Arts Director. Hello.
Good evening, City Council, City Manager. My name is Vincent Kitch, Director of Arts and Cultural Development. Happy to be here. Before we do this, I'll give you a couple of my POTA perspectives. One, we are one of those sites that is a fair and festival special event permit. And for instance, concert promoters come in, they lock down the park, they sell alcohol. We had a bar owner from Pennsylvania have to apply to be part of our POTA so he could sell alcohol at a ticketed event which is closed to the public. And we have a big, that's because under the former rules. So I think some of the changes you're looking at making will be a positive. We have a big event this weekend I'm going to talk about. Same thing, it's closed to the public, but there was a POTA application that had to be gone through to work with the current ABCA or the previous ABCA because they've changed their mind now, and we're working through that. So I think
But
the
it's
changes-
ticketed and closed. So
Correct. And they still,
not
and they're
gonna
from
go-
PA, and they still had to be part of our POTA for that one day. So
Yeah.
you're making good changes. That would be my sense. And the other thing is, kids don't drink before 10 p.m., so the hours are perfect because people all thought it was going to be an onslaught of drunken college kids downtown. Like, they don't even come out till 11 o'clock at night. So the hours work for what it's designed to do. So you're making good choices. But I'm here to talk about the summer, and you guys, we have one screen if you want to see all the flashy stuff and the videos. I invite you to come over here, but I've got a PowerPoint there. So it's been a really busy summer in our entire department, and while the Ruby Summer Concert Series gets a lot of attention, there's a lot more going on this year than just those. And we had 8 double feature movie nights as part of the Ruby movie series with nearly 1,000 people in attendance. In June, we had the Pride Block Party with over 1,000 people, which was a great success. Right in the middle of summer, in our most busiest time, our staff pulled off a 4-day marathon of events celebrating the 100th anniversary of Don Knotts and the 100th anniversary of the Metropolitan Museum. The Morgantown History Museum opened a new exhibit on 100 years at the Met Theater, and I need to thank Arts Commissioner Rick McEwen and Museum Manager Jason Burns for pulling off all of those events, because in the 3 days of that week, 80 people came to the museum, and to date, the museum has had over 2,200 people this year, which is a dramatic increase over what we've done in the years previous. So the museum is alive and well. At the Met, again, we had 4 days of events, including a Don Knotts Film Festival, author talk, Mayberry Memories, a one-man show, and a magic show for kids. And all 3 of those nights were done by people related in some way to Don Knotts, which was really great. We also did the Met 100th anniversary celebration. We need to thank our partners, Your Community Foundation, Visit Mountaineer Country CVB, and especially New South Media, Morgantown Magazine. Arts Commissioner Nikki Bowman Mills, again, led the charge on Don Knotts, and her team, they made the whole Don Knotts Festival possible. And I think over those 4 days, about 1,000 people attended the Met events. And again, thank you to a number of you who were there, some of you for all of them. So this year marked the 3rd season for the Ruby Summer Concert Series. I think it's important to really recognize the work that goes into making it happen on the part of the city. So we're going to start with that tonight, because really the entire organization has embraced the Ruby and all of our efforts. As a city initiative, I used it last year. It really does take the entire village to make it happen. Nearly every single department in the city is involved in making them a success, and I need to thank a ton of people, so I hope you'll indulge me. Damian Davis in Engineering Public Works, every division in that department is extremely engaged and works months before the series, every week during the summer. They're still down there working from streets, grounds, fleet, facilities. Everyone there is crucial, and they're very responsive whenever we have any issues. Chief Powell, Assistant Chief Roomer, and First Sergeant Balderson with Morgantown PD, and all the officers who come out each week and help us with security. Communications, our marketing partners again this year expanded all of our efforts from the website, radio, press releases, posts, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, videos. Shannon Davis did a tremendous job. She gets literally emails and texts from me on weekends and all hours of the night and the morning, and she keeps all of our Facebook and social media going strong. Finance department is always very helpful in the sheer volume of purchase orders that it takes to get the park ready, pay the advertising, the artists, and the contracts is massive. So a big thank you to Denise and Samantha and Brittany and Michelle and now Jonathan, especially July. July 1st happens right in the middle of our biggest event in 2 fiscal years, 2 different budgets, all the contracts, so it's quite an orchestration. They also have to keep track of all the grants and sponsorships that we bring in, which is significant, so they're always happy to see me come through the door. HR, particularly Connor Loudon, who helped us hire 6 or 7 seasonal staff and get them paid, which is essential to us. When you create the number of explosions that we do on the 4th of July, and now at our end of summer bash that we do, fire department is always crucial, and Jason Quinn and Andy Dotson are great. They were even there on site giving kids, promoting fire safety during the summer. Parking Authority helps promote the downtown garages with banners and A-frames, and we're really proud that the Wharf Street Garage revenue goes up something like 300% on Friday nights in the summer compared to the rest of the year because it's full. And we're working on the University Street Garage, but that's something that we bring back to the city. Cameron Allen and the ambassadors for helping the events and to make sure the restaurants get open and closed on weekends. Very crucial thing. Code enforcement, Drew Cantus, how do I say this? They keep our neighbors in line with the high standards of that are adjacent to the park that we like to maintain. So we're always happy for them to reach out on our behalf. And I think, of course, certainly not least and not last, but the Arts and Cultural Development staff, Joe Kaler, Andrew Oppenhauer, and all of our seasonal event staff who work every week to make sure the park, the facilities are ready for the public. They maintain a very high level of customer service for residents, visitors, artists, and really just thanking again everyone in the city who helped make it possible, and of course all of you for the trust and the support and the letting us do what we do down there. We really want to thank everyone in that regard. So, you know, there is more than the simple 12 Ruby Summer concerts happening during the summer. This summer we had the 12 free Ruby Summer concerts. We had 2 ticketed concerts. We had 2 new free community concerts of the Mon County Symphony Orchestra and the Fairmont Park Community Bands. Those were free community concerts by a couple regional nonprofits. We had our 4th of July celebration, Shakespeare in the Park. We've had a number of walks and runs and other activities. I'm now projecting over 40,000 people by the time we close down at the end of October. We're at about 38,000 something today. We've got a big event this weekend. We've got a couple other things. So we're looking at 40,000 people in a summer. Of course, none of this would happen without a ton of local support and the generosity specifically of the Hazel Ruby McQueen Charitable Trust, who is our title sponsor. We also received significant funding from Mon County and the Tourism Fund, Visit Mountaineer Country CVB, and the West Virginia Commission on the Arts. This year, we expanded the number of our sponsors in all of our categories, and we really want to thank them because, as I said, this little over $500,000 project that we put on every summer wouldn't be possible without that, because I remind people that with the exception of my salary and a couple others, all of this is being done by private money and grants and sponsorships. Everyone's always interested in what things cost, so if you want to see some of the numbers, here's again a list of our major grantors and community sponsors. On the expense side, city salaried support from all the departments, I conservatively estimated around $150,000. I think that's probably low given the amount of months, the sheer months that go into it and everybody that's involved, but we put a number in there. You can see some of the breakdown on our artists and production costs as well. You know, we're proud of many things. It's great to hear that we're, popular on Fridays and helping with POTA, but I think it's worth noting too that we generate directly $20,000-ish in hotel, meals, rentals, all local, just from our artists and the stuff that we're doing. Of course, that doesn't include all the people from out of town who might come visit. And last year, we tracked something like 20 to 30 different states people came from. We know they come from all over West Virginia and the 4 states surrounding us, 5. But they literally do come from Michigan, North Carolina, Florida. It's really great. We pay our West Virginia artists, who are primarily our openers, are local and West Virginia based, and we pay them well, and we believe that's something important. Our little band of local food and beverage vendors sold over $150,000 in sales. That's 3 months, $50,000 a month in sales for that, from cheesecake on a stick to barbecue to ice cream. That's a lot of economic impact in the park. We're bringing 2,000 to 5,000 people downtown every Friday night. We know we're impacting restaurants and bars. We're putting heads in beds in our hotels. I believe we're making a significant economic and social impact in downtown, the Wharf District, and really the entire county. And so we're all very proud of that. Make sure I'm on the right. In addition to cold hard cash, we actually have a number of community supporters who give us in-kind support, which really helps us do everything that we need to do, whether it's MPE, who gives me lifts and things that I would have to spend a lot of money for, to our media partnership is our big one with WVRC. We have a modest paid advertising budget, and it expands it by an additional $70,000 worth of value. And so with a combined strategy of commercials, on-air promos, interviews, events, QUU, emails, WVRC delivered nearly 5 million audio and digital impressions over the summer. One of the key takeaways, we're working on the survey right now, people are saying that they loved it, they heard it on the radio, they knew it was happening every week, they knew what was going on, and so it's all working. And we receive all kinds of different things that really help us. Our production partners, Active Air, Clayton Coots and Travis Wallace are great. RMA Presents, Rick Modisett is our booking agent that we work with. They've been crucial. It really is a partnership. It's not a strict business, because the way we work together and the commissions that they charge us is well below market, and it's tiered to help us be successful and do what we do. And I don't do it enough, but I also want to thank Josh Schweiger, who works for RMA. He works at WVU. He's my booking partner, helps pick bands and hire bands. He's a fellow conspirator, and he has been involved with me in doing this since the initial concepts of it, and I don't thank him enough. Generally, I yell at him and ask him where he's at and what he's doing, but I couldn't do it without his support either. So this is a little new this year. In 3 years, the Ruby Summer Concert Series has grown to be one of the best music festivals and venues in the state of West Virginia. We were voted the best festival in both the 23 and 24 Best of Morgantown competitions. This year, we added 3 new gold medals. I was going to wear them, but I did that for the Olympics, so I can't do it again. We were voted Best Annual Event Festival, Best Concert Venue, and Best Entertainment in the 2024 Best of Mountaineer Competition, which is new this year. All 3 categories that we were nominated for. We're currently nominated for, and you can still vote tonight because it closes tonight, the 2025 Morgantown Magazine Best of Morgantown for Best Festival, Best Music Venue, and Best Performing Arts Venue, with the Met is also nominated for and has won for 2 years. Closes tonight, so you can still vote. We'll find out next week if we've made the finals. We are a finalist for the Best of West Virginia Living's Best of West Virginia Best Fair and Festival, which we took 2nd place to the Purple Fiddle last year. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again. And we're also up for Best Live Music Venue in West Virginia, and Morgantown this year is nominated for Best Town for the Arts. That voting starts tomorrow, wvliving.com. You can vote every day from every email that you have until October 15th. Awards are nice. It just means people like us and they're enjoying what we're doing. So I encourage everyone to vote.
Vincent,
Frequently.
73 email addresses.
We'll send it out. Don't worry. You'll know how to do it. Just follow us on Facebook. I tell people, you know so much is going on. You just follow Ruby Amphitheater or the Man on Facebook. So we're not done. I was just in a meeting with the Wine and Jazz Festival Board. So the West Virginia Wine and Jazz Festival is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. It'll be a bad day to come biking through the park because it's going to be all closed down. There's going to be gazillions of people there. We have a couple more 5Ks scheduled, and we also have our Halloween Spooktacular on Saturday, October 26th. We've already got 14 or 15 community groups, businesses who are going to be there and hand out candy, and we're going to have trunk or treat from 4 to 6. We're showing Coco at 5, and the second year of the Rocky Horror Picture Show at 7. As always, we like to close out. Shannon Davis put together a little recap video, so it wouldn't be my presentation without 90 seconds or so, and we'll let Tim do the honors. There is sound. I can turn it off. I always push the technology limit.
It's funny.
We did practice this, but the computer's giving us some fits. I can send you a repeat of Maybe we'll skip the video. All right. Hey, that was But I think you get the idea. We can send it out. We'll send out a link and talk about it on our Facebook. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Just congratulations. A wonderful season, and I really appreciated all the events that I was able to participate in. They were always joyful. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent.
I loved it, especially playing with you.
Did a good job at, I call it political night at the Met. We had, all the politicians came out, from the feds all the way down. We had congressional honors about the Met. We had state honors. It's a great night.
People get excited about donuts.
They really
People get
do.
excited about 100 years of the Met.
Damien will tell you that we've had only one Fife Avenue sign stolen since we redid him. If you haven't seen it, he'll probably show you pictures because we redid it for Don's birthday with his picture on it and stuff. But we've only had one disappear since school is in session, so we consider that a major success.
I'm a little offended you said the magic show for kids because my husband and I attended that without our kids.
I know, it was a great show. He's
Young at heart,
Josh Knotts, who's from Morgantown. Yeah.
the neighbor.
There's no
Suncrest.
questions. Thank you
We can
again.
claim
We're already
them
working on
Suncrest.
next year. I could give you a teaser and tell you that Thunderstruck's going to open next year, the ACDC tribute that we had last year that everybody wanted back. But I didn't say that officially. But we've got a few things already booked, and we are working on next year's lineup already. So, thank you.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you. Now we're to presentation on Morgantown street sign designs. Public Works and Engineering Director Damian Davis.
Their signs from the ward boundary. How we go? We'll break that.
I like that green street on, with a green sign.
Street I know the most.
These are like Marvin, right? Between the maps and the GIS and now the printed signs.
Had to help out a fellow Davis.
Yeah.
No relation.
So, to start off, both the previous presenters, I have to say I've enjoyed most of their things all summer long. One of my favorite things was to do is to go to, Iron Horse to get dinner, and you can never get in there right away, so it's nice to, walk over to Apothecary or Chestnut Brewers, have a beer and Coda Cup, and then wait for your table, and you can walk back over.
Iron Horse has Poda now.
Yeah. So one of the kind of methods that really pass out this as well. One of the impetuses from this is I've been thinking about this for a while now. Thank you. I was down in Charleston for an event and saw their street signs, and I started looking at everybody else's street signs as I drive around and.
You mean we want to be cool too?
Well, yeah. Or at least we want to have, something nice looking. And so their street signs nowadays, pretty plain, just, green background. Plain green background with, white lettering. Nothing fancy. They're a 9-inch sign. And so we're looking at ordering new blanks and stuff like that, and started looking at the cost of these blanks, and looking at how we do make the signs, how we can do better, how we can be save some money as well. And so looking at other people's signs, and the capabilities that our public works has, I think we can do better than what we have out there now. And so, like I said, drive around, look at Westovers. They're pretty plain like ours. There's a 6-inch sign. Ours is a 9-inch sign. Our blanks are on an extruded aluminum blank that have a thicker edge on them. And I think we went to those many years ago, mostly because of vandalism. They're a little sturdier sign than say, like Westovers on the first page there. There's a flat blank. If you grab one, you can bend it over real easy. So I think, many years ago, 10 plus years ago, we went to the heavier duty sign that we use now, a little more expensive. What we do is we buy those sign blanks already with the green backing on them, then we just overlay the lettering on them. But we pay about $80 per sign blank, which is a lot of money when we look at how many signs we lose every year and have to replace. And just getting the green background on there is about $30. So if you get the blank sign without the green background, it's about $50 per sign blank. What Westover has just a flat. They're around, you know, if you say, like, again, if you get the green backing on there, or whatever color you want, it's around $40, and then without the backing on there, it's about $25 for blank. And so we're paying $80 a sign blank, which is a lot of money. When we have the ability to actually, you know, overlay that green or whatever we want to do on there. And so looking at, you know, again, Star Cities, you know, they have a nice little border. They're starting to change out there over the last couple of years. They have a nice little border on them, which I think is a nice look. But then you go to Charleston's, they actually have their logo on their street signs, which I thought was nice. They have a nice little border with little scallop corners, and then their logo. And they also do, if you look at the one, it has the little 100 under. They have their block numbers on there, so you can see, you know, as you're, you know, mostly for a pedestrian, it doesn't work well as a driver. But as you're walking around, you can see, okay, well, I'm in the 100 block, I'm in the 200 block, whatever. Which I think is a nice little detail to theirs. And so, and then, yeah, just the other day I was up in Pennsylvania, and they have actually the same kind of sign, but they have their logo on there, which I thought was nice too as well. Again, plain, no border or anything like that. But there's so many different things, variations you can do. And so some of them, you know, you do different colors. MUTCD, the guiding document that tells you what you can and can't do with signs. They give you really 3 color options. 4 brown, but I didn't do brown because that's mostly parks. And so they give you green, blue, and white. You can still do other things, but they don't fall within that. So I'm trying to stay within MUTC guidelines with the color choices here. I see blue a lot nowadays. Doesn't look too bad. And that one in the Pennsylvania Township. Also, I like our logo. I think works well with branding. It does add some expense if we would go with, say, have our logo on there, because it makes it a longer sign, which is a little bit of expense. But you can do all kinds of options. And then just put a couple, you know, this is kind of currently what we have, just a plain green. You know, then we can go with the border. I like putting our logo on it. This would be going to a 6-inch sign to save some money. But again, they're not as sturdy as the blanks we use. I think they would get beat up pretty well from the students. But there's I just put a couple designs together that I want council to look at and think about and give me comments on, and then ultimately whatever council wants thinks looks nice, we'll start producing. Like I said, right now we just buy it with blank and we overlay the green. But what Vincent said earlier, we did the Fife Avenue signs for Donald's 100-year anniversary. That's what got me thinking too, as well, is we can pretty much do anything we want on those signs. Because right now we have the capacity to instead of just printing. Right now, everybody have a Cricut at home, you know, the vinyl cutters. That's kind of what we do. We cut out vinyl and overlay it on the background. Well, we don't need to do that. We can print out whatever we want and just cut that and overlay it. We don't need to cut it out. So again, yeah, I just wanted to bring this to council to look at updating our signs, getting some ideas, getting your thoughts on what looks good, what you'd like to see out there, and then ultimately, you know, the students will help us, you know, replace them because they take them, and then we have to update them. So and that's I think our plan going forward. First is to I don't think we're looking at. I'm going to look at the cost first of if we did it in, you know, say a neighborhood first, or, you know, and that's one of the things options that I didn't put out, but we could look at doing different signs for different neighborhoods. You know, a different logo for, you know, Sunwest or Woodburn or Wild Hill. You know, each neighborhood have its own logo to kind of differentiate that neighborhood, or we could just do, you know, citywide Morgantown. Yeah, just ideas.
Can we just put the city logo on city streets so we can help people differentiate?
We could do that too, I mean, yes, because right now, there are a lot of signs out there that, they are state routes, but there are signs. We install them, and there are some that the DOH maintains, but for the most part, it's us maintaining them. And so that could be an idea, does it have an M on it? No, well, then it's not our street. I like that idea.
It might be a little confusing to people who would like to drive on our streets and would like to know the name.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, we would still do the state route, but we wouldn't do an M on it or something.
Yeah, that's what, still have a sign, but
State
just not have an
road's
M.
on the right.
Yeah, this would be a
City
state road,
street's on
this
the
would be a
left.
city street.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Cute.
And, just, like I said, again, there's a whole bunch of different options from, the way, capitalizing things or subscripting or, that I see out there driving around in other places that I think are neat options that could be done. But again, I just wanted to bring this for you guys as a starting point for you guys to start thinking about it. And then ultimately, if you guys want to propose something, then.
What did you explain to us about the background? That is it more expensive to have a solid green background?
The way we buy them
compared
right
to-
now, it's expensive. We buy them with the background already on it. We just overlay it with we have a 64-inch cricket, really, essentially what it is. It's a huge vinyl cutter. We cut out letters, and it's wasteful too, because you have all that material you waste. And so we also have, like in the picture here with Don Knotts, we have a vinyl printer. So we don't need to actually, waste any material. We can just print exactly what we need on there, cut that out, overlay that on top of that sign.
So if you did that, would the green be not more expensive?
No, yeah, we could do.
The green background?
We could do any color
You
background we
printed it
want to, really, yeah.
Is your,
We would just buy plain blank sign blanks, and we would overlay. Like
So
we did
part of the
on-
printing process
Yeah.
would make the green, and then you wouldn't have to
Exactly.
pay extra per sign.
Exactly.
are your
Nice.
vinyl inks stable
Yes.
and
Yeah.
capable of standing sun?
Yep. There's a couple options. We've had the Don Knotts out there. We've had a few signs out there for a few years now that we've done it, have not faded. But they also offer, we've done a few with the traffic control signs where we do, there's a protective overlay that we get, a clear protected that has an anti-graffiti and stuff like that on there too. So if someone would mark on it, we can wipe it off. It's an extra cost, but it's not that bad. We print the signs out, we run them through it.
There are a couple things here. I guess what you're a little of a loss as to what you're presenting or what your ask is. Is this, are you determining a particular standard now?
I want to for the city, yes.
And your idea is to replace them as necessary?
As necessary, or depending on if we could look at, look at cost of, say, a neighborhood. Maybe we could do a neighborhood at a time. Ultimately, if we do it, individually as needed, it's ultimately going to be the student section that gets replaced first. Because those are the signs that, as you get away from there, the signs tend to be older and older and older. They don't get stolen as much. But as you get closer to the student section, those are signs can be running around.
Also, too, I'm concerned, it's one thing for the sign, it's another thing for the post.
Yes, we are looking, like currently we use a U-channel post as a green painted U-channel post, looking at cost of, you may have seen square post out there. I think it looks a little nicer than the green rusty U-channels.
If you're looking,
Yeah.
if you're really looking to be more decorative, you're really looking at a more expensive post than what we're using.
The square channel posts are not, they're more expensive than the green U-channel posts that we use. They're a galvanized post. They're a little easier to work with. I think they're a little more stable. I think the U-channel that we have tend to get bent in water. And I think the square channel posts that I'm looking at, they're a little more stable and lean less, hopefully. But yeah, I'm looking at posts as well. So.
curious about installation. You know, it's nice to have a nice sign, but it's difficult when it's tilted one way or the other.
And so with the square posts that I'm looking at, they, to install them, you get like a 2-foot section of it, that's, 2¼ inches, and you drive that in, and then you put a 2-inch post into it and you bolt that down. So it's a breakaway post, it's traffic rated in that fashion. And you can level it a little better too, so you can, with that. But, people are hanging on it, so get that. But again, I'm not asking for any, approval or anything, I just want to bring this for you guys to start thinking about something I want to do in my department, and I think it'll help ultimately save the city money. But I wanted to get your guys' idea, get you thinking about it, and then ultimately here, maybe in the next month or so, get comments from you, gather them up, get a design, and then bring it back.
Do they make these blanks in sublimation material?
You mean like reclaimed material, or?
No, like with, so like sublimation, you melt the ink into the steel itself, so it doesn't peel or anything like that. So they make a lot of signs and things like that with sublimation. So I wasn't sure.
The older signs that are out there, they're like the older ones. We've gone through many iterations over the years where they used to be like a porcelain overlay where they were stamped. And then we had a silkscreen shop for a long time where we actually silkscreened all the signs. We made the screens. And then we went to, sometime in the 90s, we went to we had a big Cricut and the vinyl cutters and the overlay. And then now, the printer that we have out there, I'd like to move to that.
Because I know that it's becoming more and more popular, and so it's becoming way more affordable, and you can do more intricate designs if you want. Not that you would, but
we can do pretty intricate designs with the vinyl printer. Like printed Don Knotts there.
yeah.
Most of the ones you buy, like if we, there's several places you can buy. Like we do buy our stop signs. We don't make our own stop signs. We make mostly other signs, but they're mostly silk screened. When you buy them from Shannon Baum or Osborne Sign, they're all silk screened signs.
I like the designs. I like having the logo on there. I think that it helps show some pride when people are driving through. They know where they are.
I think that the new logo kind of lends itself to that. It lends itself to being a logo.
And I agree with your cap and lowercase. I think it's more readable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we could. I just did it as a white background. It could be color. The logo. I didn't put it on there to see what it would look like, how it would show up, but it could be a color logo. It didn't necessarily need to be.
So does the blue or black cost more?
No.
Oh, they're same.
Yeah, no. Yeah. But yeah, I could do it with a color logo on there too to make it stand out a little more versus just a plain silhouetted logo.
That'd be cool.
Do north and south and green and east and west and blue signs.
Yeah, I like
Get real intricate.
Yeah. But
Who else has questions?
Or what you have there to scale.
this is almost the scale.
Okay.
This is 8-inch. Our signs are 9-inch. I think I think these signs were 42 inches long. That's what the paper was, so it shrunk down a little bit. So they're slightly bigger than this actually. Out there.
It's funny because when it's that high, you don't realize it's that big.
Yeah. I think I measured these were 8 inches. The border here.
With all the designs that you have here, it's like these style opinions, would these all be 9-inch signs or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The 6-inch, 6-inch would save money, but I think it's less visible, and I think,
Yeah.
I just put it in there as an option.
Oh, so that's what this like top one is?
Yeah,
Probably
it's
6-inch.
It's
Okay.
compared to like a 9-inch sign. They're shrunk down to the scale. So
Yeah.
This would be
Okay.
This is the 9, this is the 6. Yeah, I couldn't fit a 6 on
That solid background's nice. Green and the blue.
And again, the material we have, it's a reflective material too, so we'd be printing on a reflective material, so that all the street signs would be.
And then the logo's nice. I guess if you're gonna replace a few at a time, you might wanna stay with green because it wouldn't look quite so odd. But the blue is a really nice color.
Yeah, yeah.
I just like blue, so I
Yeah,
don't know
but,
what everybody else here thinks about blue or green, but I certainly don't object to
I think
green.
you like blue for the garbage cans too, didn't you?
Those, the ones that look around Canonsburg,
I don't
Pennsylvania.
like blue in the garbage
Blue.
cans.
They look nice.
Does anybody have a blue or green preference?
And again,
No, just for conversation.
Yeah, okay.
I just was curious.
I like blue or green more than black.
Yeah.
Definitely solid color background.
Yeah.
I like the logo. But
I think it would look nice if the logo was like filled in with its colors too.
Yeah, I'll do one and send it
To
out.
add like.
I'll do one with the logo and
add a
send it out
pop.
to you.
I
Or
mean,
the
that
color.
would certainly add a pop, and if you're printing it how you're printing it, it's not gonna cost more.
No. No. It'd be the same.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I really like the idea of having the block numbers on.
We
But
will
I,
have some issues. Say we do the block numbers. There are places in this town where our addressing
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
exactly.
And so it might, in some places we would probably forego it, but in other places it'd be helpful. Like downtown would be,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have the block number.
My only concern with the block number, I mean, like, the biggest thing I would think about any of these is just readability.
Yeah.
Just maintain that as much as possible.
And the block numbers are mostly, I think, for the pedestrian level, because
Yeah.
they are, at a 25 miles an hour, 6-inch, I think the 6-inch sign, you can go to a 6-inch sign with 4-inch letters and 3-inch. And so it gets below, I think this is probably 3-inch maybe, I forget the size. But it does get small to where as a car going 25 miles an hour, it's unreadable.
If you're really lost,
Or you stop
you
to a
need to
stop
know
sign.
what block
Yeah,
you're
Something
in.
like that.
Yeah. And again, these are mostly as stop signs and things like that, so if you're sitting there at a stop sign, you might.
To be fair, I just use my phone, so.
Yeah.
I just wait until the robot says turn right.
Just out of curiosity, and really as a test of your knowledge, what's the largest number of characters in any one of our streets?
Country Club might be. Yeah, Country Club
Killarney.
Boulevard. I think it's Country Club Boulevard.
Marvin says Buchanan.
Cannon Avenue. I think Country Club's got it.
The thing that
Monongahela.
calls to mind is that you might want to consider a
shorten
more
it.
condensed
Yeah.
font.
Monongahela might be the
Crazy.
longest one up on.
Country Club's 11 too, though.
Yeah.
So it's Monongahela.
Yeah. But we have ones like, A Avenue. Over
There's
there,
space
it's
there.
in
Still counts as a
Oak
character.
Street and Elm Street, and so there, I think the cost will kind of, even out, as, yeah. Because Monongahela Street,
Monongalia Avenue.
Monongahela?
that's up there,
Monongalia
Avenue.
Avenue.
It doesn't have very many cross streets. It's got like James and Dayton and Ridgewood and Woodley.
So what are our next steps?
I think you guys talk about it, send me ideas, or send the city manager ideas with your thoughts, and I'll put something together, kind of look at all everybody's thoughts, put something together and come back in a month.
Sounds like you got a pretty favorable response, and people like the logo, and they'd like to see the logo
Yeah.
colored up a little.
So and I'll send one out tomorrow. I'll put some color in a logo on. the
So I guess
and see what
you could put the yellow and the sun part, you could put the opposite, you could put an M that was blue on the green one and a green on the blue one.
The blue and the green say, it's a different color, blue and green, than the traffic signal, or the traffic
Oh.
color blue and green.
So
So I
you
think
could
that
keep
it
that
still
logo.
stand out, even if we did color, or Morgantown blue
Green,
and
green,
green.
and blue,
Would
blue.
still stand out on the blue and green of the traffic.
Whatever you got.
Yeah, so I'll send something out.
Send it.
Yeah. On that.
Anybody else?
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Jamie.
you. All right. Moving along to the public portion. There's anyone here that would like to speak during the public portion? We're gonna open the public portion right now. That looks like,
Paper says I'm first. I'll begin by telling you about my very exciting weekend. For a year and a half, I've been asking for the DEI numbers, and I finally got them last week. It's a very small spreadsheet. Already 315 employees in the city, 2 of whom are African American, 2 of whom are Latino, 1 of whom is Asian, and only 1 person identified as non-cis, which means we have a lot of very white people working for the city, unless people are not reporting their race accordingly. There were some of the answers were not reported. I'm guessing that means they weren't asked, because they've been here long enough that nobody cared about it back then, and we started asking, and we're still up to 2 people, 5 people of color. I think we can do way better. I know the city doesn't choose who applies for the jobs, but there's got to be a way to bring in more ethnic diversity. Well, no doubt. And as for the LGBTQ plus 1 person, seriously? That's odd, given the demographic breakdown. But I've decided against doing an update on the Municipal Equality Index based on the DEI numbers and on the city's insurance policy for the employees, which I finally got a copy of on Friday and spent my weekend reading. Hurts to read this. The policy is very different to last year's, which I also read, front to back. And it's got such explicit exclusions of coverage for things that would be of interest to LGBTQ trans people. And the exclusions are quite strict as well. The inclusions and exclusions are both well defined. And there's not a whole lot of gray area, and it would be very easy to deny benefits of even hormone therapy. I take issue with that. So therefore, I shall not be doing the Municipal Equality Index report this year because I only had 6 more points to go, and I'm going to lose points if I disclose the policy and the DEI numbers. So I shall remain silent on it. What's next? And as for the Words and Boundary Commission, I spoke to that a couple of meetings ago, saying that I was concerned that it doesn't take into account active voters as opposed to registered voters. And it also lines up very poorly with the HUD maps. So it looks like we've got 2 ghetto wards where all of the minorities live, or all of the low-income people live. And I would ask the council change the charter to make it more inclusive and diverse, not just geographically, but population-wise. And HUD maps are a good place to start with that. And I shall shut my mouth and sit down now. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Any questions? You can ask.
Is there anyone else interested in speaking? Please come. Be sure you state your name and your address.
Mary Ann Foles, 828 Bloody Run Road. I was going to talk about one thing, now I'm going to talk about 2 things. Let me get my notes here real fast. It's going to be on the timer already. Notes. Okay. First of all, on the wards boundaries discussion, my recommendation, if I were in your shoes, is change your charter. I think reviewing this every 2 years is kind of ridiculous. I'd say every 10 years when you have a population change is what makes sense. I would set it by household populations because voters can change for sure, and houses and populations are not going to change as much. And you are a representative of all of the population, whether those individuals are voting or not. And then I would also throw in, it's going to be controversial, but I'd throw in a grandfather clause. If you have an individual who's on the council today and they want to continue running in a particular area, I think they should, or particular ward, they should be able to run in that ward in addition to anyone else who might step forward for that ward. That's the way I would do it. I think it's the fairest way to go. Okay, my next one is going to be hard. Health right annexation is what you're going to talk about here in a minute. I'm here strongly requesting that you pass on this request for now. I, as you know, am running for county commission, and over a year ago, I declared that my #1 priority is addressing drugs and crime. Second one is addressing the unhoused issue. So if I win, then what happens on Scott Avenue is going to become my problem because I've declared this is what I'm going to work on. As we all know, harm reduction, while it has benefits in terms of preventing disease, it also does create a collection of individuals who are addicts coming to get their supplies, and that attracts dealers and it attracts crime. So we have already seen an increase of crime on Scott Avenue as well as in that general area, and that is going to increase when Health Right moves up there. I have spoken to numerous residents who live up there who are already very concerned about the very large and daily growing encampment that is in the woods up there. And it's there's an increase in, they're starting to see needles on the ground, they're starting to see trash, and that problem is growing. So my priority, if I win, even if I don't win, is that we need to be protecting the youngest members of our society that is who I see as our most vulnerable members of our society. There's 350 residences up there, approximately 500 to 600 people, and a lot of them have children, and they're very concerned about what's starting to move up there. If I win, I'm asking you to wait till after the election, but if I win, I want to bring the fire departments together, Clinton and Morgantown. I want to bring the new sheriff and Morgantown Public Police Department together, possibly the Fraternal Order Police, West at WVU, bring everybody together and figure out how are we going to protect the citizens of Scott Avenue who are going to be experiencing the new issues that come up there. My request is keep the responsibility for this issue in the county. Don't move it to the city yet. Make it my problem. If I win, I want to take this on, and I will work with you. I'm the one who's been here until 2 o'clock in the morning. I come to every meeting. You know I'm going to work with you, and I want the opportunity to address the issue that's going to move to Scott Avenue. I understand why you're moving it from downtown. It's going to Scott Avenue. Give me the opportunity to address it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? We'll wait a moment, and then we will close the session. All right. Closing our public portion. Items for discussion. An ordinance amending Article 953 of the City Code entitled Private Outdoor Designated Areas in the City of Morgantown.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This ordinance amends the existing POTA provisions of the City Code substantially as discussed by Councilor Trumbull and by Grace Hutchins at the presentation this evening. I think in addition to the items discussed, which are adding particular identified special event areas that can be partial suspension areas within the POTA, there's also an administrative provision that authorizes the city manager to administratively grant a POTA permit to a fair and festival licensee who does want to participate in the POTA, rather than having that person go through the established committee to get a permit because of the timeliness issues that arise. If council has any questions about those, or Councilor, if you have anything to add on that, I'd be happy to address those.
I think being able to turn off partial areas of our POTA footprint is something new. We had asked about that before, and the ABCA was not amenable to that, and they have since, when asked by other communities, they've changed their mind on that. So this is something that would help a lot of our downtown events, like Grace expressed. I just wanted to put out there that this wasn't something we were actually allowed to do when we passed our ordinance the first time, and now we've been given the ability.
Nice.
Move it to the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yep.
All right. Good job. An ordinance annexing property in Milan Pushkar Healthright Inc. into the corporate boundaries of the city of Morgantown, and I assume that's our city attorney.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This is an application by Marlin Pushkar Healthright to annex property at 20 Scott Avenue into the corporate boundaries of the city. This is across the adjoining roadway from David's House of Hope, the former Ramada building. And the request by Healthright to annex the property into the corporate boundaries is a part of the city's arrangement with Healthright to fund their improvements and additional services at this new location. These types of annexation can be adopted by ordinance of City Council, and then when adopted, the certificate of annexation is forwarded to the County Commission for entry by order. It is sequenced now so that the annexation only becomes effective on the beginning of a fiscal quarter, which we take care of by provision in the order that we prepare and send to the Commission. So this would become effective if passed through Council's ordinary process on January 1st, 2025.
And can you tell us kind of the benefits or how we came to want to do this? Or is that more city manager issue, or you want us to talk about that?
Certainly, anybody's welcome on council or management to address that. I can tell you what happens as a result of annexation. The property would then become part of the city boundaries, so city fire and police services would be responsible for patrol and response there.
Because even without annexation, it will open. So
That's correct.
This will allow us to at least be able to provide safety services.
Am I mistaken in that there is some advantage for them and their funding to be included in the city in terms of grants and availability of those grants?
I think so, Councilor, and particularly the one that comes to mind is community development block grants, which the city administers, would have to be spent on operations within city limits.
I understand. Thank you.
And also, we're investing some city dollars. It's easier to invest some city dollars where it's city property. I mean, a property within the city.
Well, we're already, and also we're currently up there. I mean,
Right, it completes the campus. Or
it does. It's a matter of a stone's throw away.
Yep. Thank you.
Is asking the county commission more of a logistical item? Do they have the ability to say no? Or
Yes, that's part of the annexation process.
And in this kind of annexation, the county commission's action is only ministerial. So city council determines whether the petition is sufficient, or whether it has a majority of the eligible people who've asked to have the annexation made, and then the county commission just kind of makes the record. Now, in other types of annexation, such as minor boundary adjustment, it's a discretionary act by the county commission. They get to decide, is this in the best interest of the county as a whole? But this is a different process.
Good to know.
Move to the agenda.
Please. Yeah, move to the agenda?
Yep.
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 Okay. Wonderful. On to item C. An ordinance authorizing and approving the conveyance of property by the city of Morgantown, the city to the Morgantown Building Commission, the Building Commission, in connection with the design, acquisition, construction, furnishing, and equipping of improvements to certain recreational facilities of this city located at Marilla Park. Lovely. Should we read both of them or one at a time? Or?
I think moving both to the agenda together would be worthwhile here.
Yes.
It's one
All right.
project.
Because we're not approving them, we're just talking about them. So item D, an ordinance authorizing the issuance by the Morgantown Building Commission, the issuer of not more than $11 million in aggregate principal amount of Morgantown Building Commission, West Virginia lease revenue bonds in one or more series to provide all or a portion of the funds to acquire certain real property from the city of Morgantown, West Virginia, the city, and to design, acquire, construct, furnish, and equip improvements to certain recreational facilities of the city located at Marilla Park. And so we have bond counsel and we have our Marilla Park director.
So I'm going to be the opening act for these really, really smart gentlemen. Thank you for having us this evening.
We saw you look around.
So you know who you are. So as you all know, Boat Park has been doing many upgrades within our system that were long overdue. Major improvements were needed at nearly every level of service and functionality. We've been focusing a lot on Marilla Park as one of those areas. Marilla Park is a focus point for a diverse range of recreational opportunities. And we wanted to highlight those and provide an avenue for input for additional amenities that the community might want. We did this through a process of public engagement. We did online surveys, we did community meetings, we did written communication and commentary. And as a result of that process, we're on schedule for completion of the Marilla Aquatic Complex, which is going to open next summer of 2025. We're also currently preparing to install a new playground equipment at Marilla Park, at Upper Marilla, and make significant improvements to Lower Marilla Park. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight. What I would like to do is list some things that we are hoping to accomplish with this bond ordinance. Tennis and basketball court upgrades, the addition of pickleball in Lower Marilla Park, new seating for all of these court areas. We're actually planning to have shade options for some of our seating as well as traditional open seating. Replacement and upgrade of the Marilla Skate Park, which will be in the footprint of where the original Marilla pool was, or is scheduled for demolition soon. Establishment of a multi-purpose recreational field space for both our programs and public use. Renovations of the Marilla Center, which will continue to be available as a rental space and also the hub of our programmatic services. Upgrades to parking that will focus on all these zones of activity and provide a more optimal visitor experience, also more safe visitor experience, because we are focusing on the ability to not have to cross each Brockway Avenue to get from one way to another. Marilla Pavilion upgrades, permanent park restrooms, including an all-season option. We are doing that both in Lower and Upper Marilla Park, actually. Retention of green space, easy trail access, Of course, updated picnic tables, benches, and a new trailhead for the Marilla Connector Trail at the entrance to Little Marilla Park. So we expect the time frame of the bonding and bid process to accommodate an early spring start in 2025, and the expectation for completion will be late next fall. As I already mentioned, Rob Steptoe and Tom Amon are with us this evening to provide details on the bonding ordinance itself. And we can all three answer any questions you all have after they finish up. Yep.
Good evening. Some people like for me to introduce myself, so I try to always introduce myself. So Tom Amon with Steptoe and Johnson, and we're the bond counsel for this particular project. So that was the overview of the project. The Thrasher Group is the architect engineer for the project. So we have a current budget for that project of just over $9 million. So obviously we won't know the final cost until the bidding process. You guys are getting familiar with how all this works now. So the bond ordinances are both not to exceed $11 million. So you'll recall on these ordinances we do try to provide some space in there between the actual, the bonding amount and what the budget is for the project. That way, when the project bids are opened, if they're in excess of that $9 million budget, then there's space there that if council still wants to proceed, you don't have to go through another new ordinance process to do that. So it basically saves time and gives you all options. So similar to the Marilla Pool project, the building commission obviously will be the issuer of the bonds. The city, through its ordinance, will be authorizing the conveyance of the property to the building commission. Then there's that lease back to the city, and then through that leasing arrangement, the city makes lease rental payments that then pays the debt service on the bonds. So that's how the bonds get repaid. We are planning to do this similarly as a public offering. So, it'll be an offering document that's being prepared, and we're working with management and finance director to put that together. Because of the bidding schedule that we mentioned in the spring, it's good to get the ordinance process out of the way now, so we're not rushing that in early next year, and gives you all time to think about things and what have you. But also we would come back with the final approvals, which would be the supplemental resolutions, which would occur after bids are open and we know what those actual project costs are. Then we'll finalize the documents, we'll finalize the budget for the project, and have the sources and uses of funds, finalize our schedule to closing, and put that all in front of council for consideration through that supplemental resolution. So that's basically the timing. We would ask that if you decide to move this to the regular council agenda, it would be for the city, you'd complete this in October with your 2 meetings and a public hearing, and we would do legal advertisements that we would take care of. And then for the building commission, we're scheduling those right around those council meetings, but then extending to a 3rd reading because they're required to do 3, which would then conclude in early November, I think November 6th, right after Election Day. And then we would kind of be on pause until the project goes out to bid in the spring, and then we pick this back up with a supplemental resolution, and if we have a good budget, we proceed to closing. I know there are some beautiful renderings here that now have the engineers put together, and I have a budget here that has some of that detail. I'll give you a little bit better number here. I said about $9 million. $9,395,000. on that, but it looks like you all probably have the renderings there and probably the budget as well. So that's the high-level overview. This may include, depending on the benefits of bond insurance and debt service reserve insurance and what have you, that could be an option. Rob may speak to that. I think that's pretty much it. But I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you all may have. Rob, did you have some things you'd like to add?
Really, the only things I can add at this point are that we're also, as Tom said, we're not in a huge hurry, so that's a good thing. Everybody's really working or in the process on the documents early in the process, so that gives us the flexibility to move quickly if we had to, or to move on schedule. So I think what the plan is generally, tell me if I'm wrong here, but we're going to start the bid process in early January. We'll go for 30 days. That avoids, interestingly, there's been a huge influx of bidding going on with water and wastewater projects all around the state. I think there are like 50 of them out to bid right now. So we're avoiding all of that that's going on this fall. We're going to we don't need to go out for bids this fall and borrow money early and start paying interest on money borrowed early and all that. We're going to start bidding in January, finish that process up in early February. Then Oak Park and the city will have a week or so to review bid results. If we've got good bids, we're going to also simultaneously be working on another, hopefully a bond rating. So that will drive the interest rate down. And we also know that just last week they started lowering the interest rates in general. So, and there's going to be another series of those. There's going to be another one in November, another one in December. They don't correlate, exactly together, but overall in general, it's like a tide. You know what I mean? It's like the market will settle lower based on what the Fed's going to do, and their indications are that they're going to drop them maybe even as much as 200 basis points when they're at the terminal point, which is hopefully late spring. So get good bids, get a bond rating, get the supplemental approved, and start marketing for a week, price the bonds, and maybe even close by the middle of March, third week in March, somewhere in there. You're not going to lose any construction season. Everything will stay on schedule, and it's where we'll be.
Yeah, and Pressure, agreed when we were talking about this because January would be a better time to go to bid. So we give our GCs the opportunity to not have to hold that price for an extended period of time. And we're not going to really be able to get started until late March or early April anyway, just due to weather. There's a lot of outdoor things that they're going to be doing in terms of recreational amenities. So it would just be a better starting time for a GC as well. Shorter bid hold period means more potential bidders, and that's the time of the year to focus. The GCs are that's when they're looking for work for the next cycle.
So, do we have questions?
You're anticipating breaking ground on this in
Late March,
March?
very early April.
2025?
25, yes.
Done by the
Done
end of
by
fall?
fall of 2025.
25.
Shorter construction season than the new Pomona Aquatic Complex due to less MEP, mechanicals, electric, plumbing. There's
Right.
a lot of stuff involved in the pool, and mostly outdoor recreational components.
So more pouring and painting
Yes.
and fencing.
And fencing and upgrades to Marilla Center, but we are thinking after reviewing Marilla Center earlier this week that, most of them are going to be internal. We do need a new roof, new siding, things like that, but it's just your straightforward upgrades. And pickleball.
I still don't know what pickleball
It's like tiny tennis.
is. I know that's what everyone is
Like, they don't play, people love
Is
it.
it indoor or outdoor?
It's outdoor.
It can be either.
Yeah.
Do you hit at a wall like?
No, at other people.
It's a net.
It's tiny tennis, I'm telling you.
See these tiny little things over here? That's what.
Listen, it's everywhere, and I have yet to.
It's not as taxing.
Is it?
As
Is the
Florida, they
ball
play it all the
softer?
Do the
Like,
It's
Krebs
just-
courts open back up yet, or is
Because
that
it's
next
smaller,
week? Like,
it's easier to hit the ball back and
go to
forth.
Krebs,
There's more
yeah, you'll
volleys.
see it. Yeah, every night, you'll see it.
Krebs.
It's just more, it's like more fun for
I
people who
saw
are
the
not.
courts, but no one was playing, so I still don't know. I'm just flabbergasted.
Yeah, there's like a little club that, I don't know if they still have their little chest down there, but they have their equipment and they come and open it and all play and have a good time.
Just like watching.
So Mel, you hope to complete this in 25?
Yes. Yes.
Aggressive?
Aggressive.
Mel, are there plans for the bike park, skate park where the pool was?
There are concept designs.
Okay.
I can share those.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm just wondering how the pools can be utilized just in terms of designs. too.
Okay, I'll share those.
Tony Hawk
Thank you.
style.
Yeah, it's multiple use kind of area, so it's
Yeah, it's,
bikes and skateboards and
Correct.
what else?
Will you keep the
There
pool full?
is a walking path. There, in the original design, there was a small pavilion, and I'm not sure if that made it to the final design, but
But
I'll distribute
but
it.
it's a number of different vehicles that'll
Yeah.
be in there
Yeah.
and number of different kind of areas.
Will
that are
they use the
intertwined.
empty
Different
pool
skill
as like a
sets.
slope?
Yeah.
Different skill sets, yes. There
So
will
that
be.
the pool will be like part of this, the jumps and the ramps?
Where the pool currently is, yes.
Not the pool though.
Not the pool, no. No. We will be demolishing that area. That old pool will actually be appropriately filled in to start the construction for the skate park.
All right. I've used the skate park. I tried. I fell.
what did we do with
break
the water
anything?
slides
I
that
would
we got?
probably break some.
They'll be demoed.
It's
Okay, so we haven't gotten rid of them yet or
We
anything.
have not done that yet. We had pavilion rentals in the Gorilla Pavilion clear up until the end of this month. And interestingly enough, the pavilion and the pool area share electric and water.
Oh.
So we didn't want to interrupt those rentals, so we decided to wait until the end of this month.
Could I get a piece of the slide?
For memory's sake.
Yeah.
That's a cute idea. Maybe you
Like the
should,
bricks at Suncrest School. yeah.
maybe you should mention that to our foundation, see if they'd like to.
Sell
like-
them, yeah.
Like to, why not?
So this is public now.
This is public after tonight's meeting, yes.
I know a member of the media and also a local birthday boy who will be very excited that they can finally show them off.
Yes.
Cool.
Any other
Move to an agenda.
questions? Please,
Second.
Thank you all so much.
keep this going.
Thank you all. It's
Thanks
awesome.
for your support.
Yes, so I
Thank
assume
you
you
for
mean,
sitting through the rest of our
I
presentation.
assume you all mean both of them.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we're on to a potential executive session. Is there someone wanting to read it?
I move that pursuant to West Virginia State Code Section 6-9A, we enter executive session to discuss the acquisition or development of property in the downtown district, and pursuant to West Virginia State Code Section 6-9A 4B12, to discuss matters protected by attorney-client privilege.
Because it always gets me thinking.